Welcome to this design analysis video on a true living legend. Today we discuss the Mazda MX-5 or Miata. Japanese automakers have mainly grown over the years through their excellent analytical skills. And the Mazda MX-5 or Miata is a striking example of this. Because of the 1973 oil crisis, cars that were primarily driven for pleasure had fallen out of favor, and no manufacturer developed any new two-seaters. Roadsters at the time, such as the MG and the Triumph Spitfire, were not only very outdated, they were also very unreliable. In 1976, Bob Hall, a journalist at Motor Trend magazine, discussed with Kenichi Yamamoto and Guy Arai, both research and development executives at Mazda, how the downfall of the traditional sports car had taken place in the late 1970s, and what Mazda could be doing with the hole in the market. The rest, as they say, is history. In this video, a special focus on the Genesis model of the MX-5 and the current 4th generation. The Mazda MX-5 NA was made from 1989 until 1997. The possibilities to revive the traditional sports car were looked at by Mazda Design in their studios in California and Tokyo in the late 70s. The California team, led by Mark Jordan, introduced a mid-engined car. The Japanese favored a more conventional layout. The power unit placed in the front combined with rear-wheel drive. The Japanese eventually won the internal design competition. Conceptually, this first MX-5 could be considered the evolution and even spiritual successor to the British sports cars of the 1950s and 60s, such as the Austin-Healey 100 and the MGA. The Lotus Elan, in particular, was an important source of inspiration. The proportions of the Japanese creation can be compared to that car. The oval and low-placed grille, the soft, rounded body, and certain styling solutions in the detailing are also very similar. Nevertheless, the first generation MX-5 has a distinctive face of its own. Not the least because of the Japanese character and the typical friendly forms of the Mazda design language in the 1990s. Fast forward to the 2015 Mazda MX-5, the ND, which is Mark IV. Designers from Japan, the US and Europe worked on the 4th model line of the MX-5 through the Kodo, Soul of Motion design language. They were led by design chief Masashi Nakayama. The design task was excessively complex. Both the 2nd and the 3rd generation MX-5 merely deserve the predicate reasonable for their design. In particular because of their visual bulk. They cannot stand in the shadow of the 1st generation MX-5. So, the Mark IV not only had to be a real agile MX-5, it also needed to catch on worldwide, had to respectfully honor the past as well as look into the future. The concept of MX-5 is timeless due to a few basic elements. Its beautiful, classic proportions on the one hand, and a design that is thoroughly modern on the other hand. Quite a task for the design team to figure out. How to make the new MX-5 attractive to a new group of buyers, without alienating the current clientele that had made it the best-selling roadster of all time. The outcome of the combined American and Japanese labor, because the ideas of the European studio in Frankfurt had already been dropped very early in the process, is as complicated to judge as the initial mission was to design it. Why is that? Well, the new MX-5 is proportionally flawless. It has a lot of personality and a clear family connection is visible through the Kodo design language. However, despite the fact that the application of the brand DNA to each and every car in a manufacturer's range is normally essential, and in this case the application of Mazda's current design language to the 4th MX-5 was successfully executed, the question is, as the MX-5 has over the years realized such a unique and iconic status within the Mazda portfolio, would a more standalone MX5 orientated DNA, rather than just the Mazda Kodo design language, not have been justifiable. Arguably, in my personal view, it would be the better choice even. After all, the MX5 is so legendary, it is almost a brand in itself. That timelessness and positioning it separately from the other models could have been a smart strategic move in this case. After all, the MX5 is Mazda's halo model. The design concepts from Japan, which, without falling into dangerous and simple retrospective design, brought a beautiful, relevant tribute to the NA MX5. And at the same time, and this is very important, they were set in the present. They gained my personal approval above the American ones. The proportions from the Japanese studio were not only simpler compared to the current production car, they also did not look aggressive, one of the main features of the NA MX5. The Japanese proposals looked even friendly. Nevertheless, they were not considered advanced enough by the Americans. The Japanese, in turn, felt that the American view lacked emotional excitement that would captivate car enthusiasts. Probably mainly the link to the NA. The ND production car has clearly become a combination of the two proposals. A compromise even. The most important element that Mazda did get right is that the MX-5 has remained compact. Unlike so many sports cars. Think of how much the 911 has grown, for instance. The dimensions of the current model are even slightly more modest compared to that of the outgoing third version. The Mark IV MX-5 also looks really Japanese. Despite the fact I believe the current MX-5 could have been better, the aesthetics of the Mazda are fresh in a world of corpulent, complicated and angry sports cars. It is honest, pure, light and delicate. For the true design connoisseurs amongst you, the Inside Mazda website features a fantastically richly illustrated story on the development of the Mark IV MX-5. Under the name Redefining a Legend, the brand gives unprecedented access to the creative design process. From the initial sketches to the selection moments of many scale models of interior and exterior up until the final car. This is unique in the automotive industry and therefore very commendable. Please find the link to that website in the description below this video.